G'day everybody, welcome to the second video of my channel StalkedByTheState. Today I'm going to show you how to install StalkedByTheState. If you haven't watched the first video, you're going to need to do that in order to understand what this is all about. Okay, you are going to need, before you start, one of the Jetson Nano, Xavier NX or a Xavier AGX development boards installed in a case with a fan. These boards run hot, you're going to need that fan. Once you have that, you should install the basic system in the manner that's instructed by the instructions in the packet. So for the Jetson Nano, I would Google for getting started Jetson Nano dev kit, and I'm going to install today on a Jetson NX because that gives me the most flexibility. So here's the instructions for the NX. All three of the platforms require you to install the basic operating system first before you start with my installation software. In the case of the Nano and the NX, that involves writing up an install image by downloading from this website. Xavier AGX differs in that it has in principle what appears to be an inbuilt SD card, and the instructions are a bit different. But go ahead and install this this image. I use WinDisk Imager. A tip here, make sure that you do safely remove the device before you take the SD card out after writing the image. I've lost a great many SD cards in the past by failing to do this. When you install, do choose the highest power model, and I would suggest also that you set the IP address to a fixed IP address via the GUI while you have it available, because we're going to take the GUI down during the installation, and you will need to have a fixed IP address if you want to map your device to the outside world. So that's that all done. Here's one I prepared earlier, and now I'll show you the installation steps for my software. Once you've installed the basic operating system, the first thing we should do disable and shut down the GUI interface, because that just uses up memory which you're going to need in order to be able to run all of the algorithms. So log on to your system and run this command here. And then do a reboot, and your system should come up in a non-GUI interface. Okay, now you want to go to my website on GitHub. Well, not my website, my GitHub page. So that's that's HCFman, github.com HCFman. And the installation of StalkedByTheState happens in two phases. It's not a normal standard installation. The first stage is to install Sps Install. Now, why do we do that? Well, Sps Install solves two common problems that people have using SD cards or even other cards, other things in embedded devices actually. And that is one of getting corrupted disks, and typically embedded systems run without having a connected keyboard and mouse, so when that happens, it'll often hang waiting for user input, so you just get a box that just won't boot. So I decided to provide my solution to this in as a separate stage, because it could be useful for a base for other projects. How StalkedByTheState solves this with this SBS, actually it's the SBS base project that you've got to install first, is that the base project partitions the disk into three different partitions. One is for the operating system, and that runs in a read-only state with a read-write memory overlay file system on top. This gives you stability to the basic operating system in the sense that because it's mounted read-only, it can't get corrupted by a power cut or other such things. The second partition is a read-writable, a remountable read-only mounted configuration partition. The configuration is mostly mounted read-only. When the configuration changes, it's remounted as read-write. The configuration is changed that it's remounted, then as read-only. And then the last partition is mounted in a read-write state. That's where all the disk video capture images go to. So there are two modes of operation for this base. One is the mode where is the read-write mode where you add new software to the basic system, etc. And when that's stable, you then make it read only and reboot, and you're mounted with the memory overlay file system. But I'll show you that after we've finished the installation. So let's get on and install the base system. And to install the base system, after you have disabled the GUI, is just this one command here. Actually no, that's the command for disabling the multi-user GUI. So first of all, we've got to clone the basic system with what I'm going to do, actually I'm just going to change the prompt so you can see where I am all the time. Alright, and then we clone the software. Base. Cut and paste is your friend, clearly. And we run this command here. Okay, so while this is installing, I can go into a little bit more detail. This step here installs the software that you installed on your SD card, makes it run on your hard disk. You do need to have an SSD system for this. With the case of the NX and the AGX, that can be an NVMe SSD, which is very handy because you can mount it underneath the circuit board and it's out of the way. In the case of a Nano, it can only be a USB mounted hard disk, such as the Samsung T5 portable SSDs. In this case, I've installed the NVMe disk, and you get to choose that, and I choose my NVMe disk here. And because I've installed this a few times before, it's asking me if I want to overwrite the partition that's already there, and I do in every case. Alright, so this software, it'll do the partitioning for you. It'll copy the operating system for you and install it. And when you're finished, you're ready with a system that boots from SSD in read-write mode. And then we can continue with the rest of the installation of StalkedByTheState. There's only a couple of commands necessary to install the entire system. Basically, we've done the installation of the base project now already. We've just got to wait for it to install. It takes about 5 minutes. It's about 15 gig, I think. It gets copied over. If you're having trouble understanding me, that might be because of my accent. That's a New Zealand accent. Born and raised in South Auckland, New Zealand. I quite like the fans provided by KKSB cases in Sweden. The case I'm using here for this NX installation is the same case that you'd use for a Nano. And with a Nano, these people sell the case with and a fan that comes with it, but with the NX, the fan is provided with the development board itself. And there's enough room in there to install the NVMe card underneath the development board. The Jetson AGX, Xavier AGX, that comes with its own case and fan, and it's all installed. That's the top end model. The Xavier NX is the middle model, and the Nano is the base model. The base model has 4 GB of memory, and that's enough memory to run one of the models, Yellow version 3 or Yellow version 4, with an image size of 416 pixels. So that's a slight compromise on the 608 by 6 pixels. But it's not much of a compromise. The NX series, if you can possibly afford it at all, I recommend the NX or higher series, because with the NX or higher series we can run both models simultaneously with the full image input size of 608 by 608 pixels, and that gives you a lot more flexibility for overcoming problems like false alerts, etc. And it also, with the lower model, the Jetson Nano, you'll be able to run one model and video translation software for about 4 cameras that will convert RTSP to the needed MJPEG streams. The NX series and higher, they can run at least 8 cameras. It all depends upon what kind of expectation you have with respect to response time, because with more cameras you're cycling around them more. In all of the models, you could in fact run the software on the base model but do your processing on another system with a higher powered GPU, which is a great way to go if you want to reduce the processing time per image, which means that you can detect intruders quicker. It gives you more options for detecting loitering, for example. And so that's the base installation's finished now, it's rebooting. Okay, we can see that this is the read-write mode, because if I type in the find mount command, we can see the NVMe drive here at the top. I'll show you later when we've installed the other software and we're running in the read-only mode how that looks different. In principle, you'll see that the type is overlay FS here. It's not ext4. That's the real difference. The software is installed, and it's installed with... It's created an SBTS bin directory with 5 helper scripts there. The mount read-only and mount read-write, they're mainly used by the installation software. You can do that now. That changes the configuration directory here to be either read-only mounted or read-write mounted. They're set user ID root because they are executed by the Java program from StalkedByTheState. These 2 programs, and this one as well, you would run with sudo. So we're in a read-write state now, so to become set state, once you've made your changes, if you're installing some base software, you'd go sudo /make read-only, and then sudo reboot, and then your system would be like stable and resilient to power cuts, etc. Anyway, we'll talk about more of that later. Let's get on with the rest of the installation. So now we want to install the Sps Install, which installs the StalkedByTheState system. So we go Sps Install here and follow these instructions here. So clone the software, the installation software. Change directory and run this command here. Okay, you're going to be asked for 3 passwords here. The first password, well, and username. This first username is the username for the web interface. So that's the Tomcat application that runs the graphical interface to StalkedByTheState. I'm going to use admin here, although it's not recommended, just because it'll be easier for you to remember what on earth I'm talking about, because it's often used as a web interface username, but use another one, please. And I'll just enter YouTube here as the password for this web interface. The last password you've got to enter is the password that's going to be used to back up and restore the configuration file, because this is encrypted. So I'll also use YouTube in this case. Don't use the same, well, it's up to you what you do. So once you've done that, that's the only input you need to do for the second stage of installation. So when this is finished, the entire system is installed. When I say the entire system, this installs the basic application StalkedByTheState, the Java program. This installs and sets up Apache so that it can be used as a reverse proxy. Configured, or it's all set up to be able to use Let's Encrypt certificates, auto renew certificates, which can also be used to tunnel access to your cameras. And it installs the software that is written in Python that reads all of the cameras, reads the configuration file, and then uses the YOLO version 3 and YOLO version 4 models to detect the intruders, generate the triggers for the video capture and alerting, etc. StalkedByTheState instead of using a let me see, the models that I'm using just have to conform to a certain output protocol, and then you could use any other kind of model. So you could use something that's not YOLO version 3 or YOLO version 4, so long as you build a WebSocket interface into it, whereby you can throw a binary image at the WebSocket service and then get back a classification that conforms to the same way as YOLO does, which means that you're providing probability, bounding box, and location of the image for your image types. If you do that, then being a network interface, the configuration file allows you to use that in your detection, and it can use it in your detection simultaneously with other models in the same image. So during a single video image processing, you could be using YOLO version 3 and YOLO version 4, or YOLO version 3 or YOLO version 4 at different parts of the image, and then in another part of the image you could use a completely different model. You know, to give you one example where it might be useful, you know, you might use YOLO version 3 and YOLO version 4 in a messy area of your video. That's a cluttered area where there might be a possibility of false alerts. So you require the person to be seen with both models. And then maybe at the front door you require the person to be seen with both models, and then use a third model. Maybe that's a weapon model, and then if you then detect the person with both YOLO version 3 and YOLO version 4, and if the weapon detection model, you could then immediately set off a siren, for example. Right, automatically restart daemon, no. The installation of StalkedByTheState disables Docker. And that's because the Docker normally has writable paths underneath var docker, and you don't want to be running that on top of a memory mounted read-only file system. If you wanted to use Docker on this platform at the same time, you would have to do a little bit of preparation where you move the location of the basic Docker install to the writable partition first, but in this case I just disable it because it's not part of what we do here. Docker would just use a little bit more memory up, not much, but a little bit more, and memory is highly critical on the particularly on the first two NVIDIA platforms. The Xavier AGX that comes with 32 GB of memory, and memory is not really a problem much there. I wanted to make sure that the installation steps are as absolutely simple as I could possibly make them in order to encourage adoption. This is a new piece of software. People don't know what it can do yet. I'd like to encourage people to try it. The software is designed to be highly flexible. With flexibility comes, a little bit more care and attention to configuration. But it'll be thoroughly worth it because you can get a system that's truly useful. There's so many software in the security area that just simply gets turned off or not adopted because of high false alert rates, or it doesn't work very well, or it doesn't fit into your lifestyle. StalkedByTheState is a security state machine, and that allows you, what that really means is that allows you to control the state of when you get alerts, what you get alerted for, very easily, typically with buttons on your mobile phone that you can create with the system. We're going to leave the configuration of the system to another video. I will be making lots of videos all about smaller pieces of material to digest, and configurations going to be quite an involved video, so I'll do that as a separate one because you might want to replay it a few times, or you might just want to replay this one a few times. I've been beta testing the bulk part of this AI-based intruder detection maybe for about 2 years on several different sites, and in short, a couple of months after the Nano came out, I had a working version of that that's been installed at several people's places. Recently I got the idea to make it more flexible by allowing the model to be used to be multi-model, and multi-model within different parts of the same image even. That's only been a few months that I've made the changes to accommodate that. But it's worth it. It's really, really flexible like that. Even within YOLO version 3 and YOLO version 4, they have slightly different characteristics to what they detect and how well they detect it. They both detect people very well. There'll be some situations where YOLO version 4 may be able to detect people from a little further away in the dark, but it's not always that straightforward. There's situations where YOLO version 3 will detect a person and YOLO version 4 will not, and vice versa. YOLO version 4 appears to be a little more eager. It tends to be able to detect more people. Sometimes that results in a higher false positive rate, but not always. And by using the multi-model system that I have here, in the configuration you can choose to use whichever model best suits your particular area, or in areas of where there's a high chance of false positives, you could choose to require both of them to see the object. Typically I set it up to require one or the other, so either of them. I actually run both models. That improves the chance that I'll detect the intruder. The GUI, the basic state machine that I use in this, in principle, that's been developed over a very long time. There's some code in there that was written in 2008. The bulk of that was written in 2010, 2011, and it's had an awful lot of soak testing. The stuff typically just runs for years on end, and I've had it running at several different sites. It's just been very good for acceptance testing to see how well people will continue to use the software. And but of course the huge change came with the introduction of the YOLO algorithm. I think it was around about 2018, maybe 2017. And then with the advent of the NVIDIA Jetson series, affordable GPU and tiny weeny form factors, that really was exciting, because there's not a lot of people that like to run desktop computers 24/7 like crazy people do, like myself. Okay, that's it. The software is now installed and it's rebooting. Guess I've got to have a bit of patience. It's not one of my strong characteristics. Okay, so now you can see what I'm talking about with the memory overlay file system. You can see that slash is mounted as an overlay FS root, and the NVMe drive is mounted read-only. You see? At the moment, the configuration directory is mounted read-write, and the disk is mounted read-write. But shortly after the application starts up, that's going to change into read-only, like now. So now it's running as read-only. So if we have a look at some other processes that might be running, like Python, you can see that we're running on this platform both the YOLO version 3 and YOLO version 4 algorithms. And this SBST secure.py, that's the process that reads cyclically through all of the video streams and takes the latest available image and reads the configuration file and processes it with either or one of the Yellow version 3 or Yellow version 4 or both of them. It's also included in this process here. I've also built in a REST interface to a web server that can allow you to turn on and off processing of video streams or even specific alert notifications dynamically. That makes it really flexible in cooperation with the main system. So now we can go to the machine on port 8080 with the URL SBTS. We can type in that username and password that you entered earlier, which in my case was admin and YouTube. And here's the software. System status would show you the status of how much disk is there, devices that you have connected. The two devices that you can connect here is an RFX-COM TRX433 for Europe or Australia or New Zealand or some other countries, not US, they have different frequency. And that allows you to read from remote controls and turn on off lights like in the Netherlands called click on, click off. Fidget, amazing devices for USB connected I/O ports, so you can read button switches and control relays with these things in a wired sense, which is great for security. So you could wire in other kinds of security devices into this in a way where you don't have to play with the GPIO pins of your board. If you pay a lot of money for a board, you don't want to blow it up by putting through static electricity, so it's nice to have something that isolates that. Once you've connected up camera streams, they'll be showing up here whether they're online or not. The actions allows you to add different kinds of actions in response to your events. A video one would be video capture, email would be emailing that particular video capture. These relate to state, these relate to the devices. And there's lots more of that. We're going to go into that in separate videos. That's the video. Hope you liked it, and next step will be configuration. So thanks very much, and look forward to seeing you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe and press the like button. I very much appreciate that. Thank you very much.